I am absolutely addicted to horror games. This one I played recently was Escape from the. Forgot the name of it already. It was called Tales Beyond the Tomb, Pineville Night Stalker, and it was good. I have like a weird addiction to indie horror. This one you'll love. This one you'll love. This one I know the developers behind indie horror, behind Tales Beyond the Tomb. I know they did like a season 2, and I played season 1, episode 1. I'm gonna play more games of them, but this one is really good. It's really good. Try it. Watch it. Watch it. Oh yeah, also I made another video called Parasocial. That's also a really good one, but this one's also a good one. So are all the other YouTube videos, but this one's a good one too. Watch them all. Leave a like. Okay, so you're probably thinking, oh, here we go, another indie horror deep dive. But listen, I'm addicted to low poly indie horror games. And honestly, if I had a better computer, or better internet, I could be streaming this all day, every single day, and giving my analysis. But the best I can always do is record, find some weird indie horror games like the Atmo Pixel Bundle or Public Combo or a bunch of different ones like Fears to Fathom, and give my analysis. And I love it because I love doing deep dives into these types. Now, this one is an interesting one, right? So hear me out. This one's called Tales Beyond the Tomb, Pineville Night Stalker. Now, I played this for a little while. I recorded it, and I realized because they released a new one, but I'm playing the first one. Okay, so I'm a bit late to the game. Now, I would say indie horror has been chasing like a big vulnerability for years that I've noticed in a lot of them. They're always influenced by low-fi, like episodic format of true crime simulations, right? Always based on some true story. But when 616 Games, they released Tales Beyond the Tomb and Pineville Night Stalker, they didn't just try to build another jump scare simulator again. They're building an exercise in mundane paranoia. Now, I've seen this crop up in a lot of games. Fears to Fathom is a big one as a walking horror simulator. So it's not a jump scare one, right? They take the vulnerability of being isolated in a dying town and they weaponize it against our basic instinct, right? To trust our fellow man, let's say, our partner. Okay, so here we go. The narrative setup feels intentionally classic. You're leaning into your cinematic comfort food, right? You play as Megan. Her mother has unexpectedly passed away. She's left behind a mysterious inheritance in the desolate backwoods town of Pineville, because no one in a horror game ever takes a standard flight when they can manage a grueling road trip instead, right? So Megan enlists Lenny, her friend zone champion co-worker, let's say, to drive her out there in his camper. So right from the jump, the atmosphere does the heavy lifting. The game adopts a gritty, low-poly VHS aesthetic. Now, I'm always going to keep repeating that because it's always evident in these, and it invokes that same sense of like late 20th century isolation, right? There's no smartphones to bail you out here. There's no instant access to emergency services, just a big ribbon of black asphalt to drive down and a huge amount of grief. But what makes this opening section work isn't the looming threat of a killer, let's say. It's kind of the discomfort of the ordinary, right? You see this crop up again in a lot of things, kind of like in Chilla's Arts games. Why are you looking at me like that? Now, the dialogue between Megan and Eleni is clunky, sure, but it captures that realistic feeling of a strained relationship with an incredibly uncomfortable journey. Now, you aren't playing a weapon wielding survivor, you're just playing a civilian trapped in a slow motion tragedy. Okay. Now, a great thriller understands that the journey needs to systematically erode your sense of safety before you even reach the destination. So, you have your mandatory roadside pit stops, when Megan and Lenny stop for supplies and an overnight stay. Okay, the game transitions from a passive walking simulator into an uncomfortable interactive checklist. Someone knocking at my door? Maybe it's coming from the game. Better not leave now. Let's go, let's go. Stood up. You run errands, right? You buy energy drinks. There's the janitor that gets annoyed when your partner throws the can because you're well, yeah, because he missed the bin and he's annoyed that he has to obviously clean, which is not fair to the janitor, obviously. It feels mundane. Everything here feels mundane at this point until the motel scene hits. So this is where the developer pulls off an interesting trick of misdirection. And you're just trying to settle in, take a shower. There's an intruder that attempts to breach your room. Now the game forces you to hide. You listen to footsteps of the invader, and it invades your space. It's brief, it's frantic, but it leaves you completely wired, right? You survive the encounter, but the psychological damage is done. Now, by the time you get back into the camper to, finish the drive to Pineville, you're no longer looking at the game as an interactive story. You're probably actively now scanning every corner of a screen for danger. I love that. It kind of makes you change your positioning in this sense. When Megan finally arrives at her late mother's estate, there's no relief. The inheritance isn't a grand prize, it's an anchor. The house is a sprawling labyrinth of childhood memories coated in dust and pure isolation. Lenny stays to help, trying to keep the mood light by ordering a couple of incredibly overpriced pizzas, but the domestic illusion kind of shatters this immediately. Yeah, this guy. What is he doing in there? Why is it... Now, a knock at the door introduces us to Joseph. He claims to be a neighbor, someone looking for the place, offering a watchful eye. Now, he seems friendly, right? He seems friendly. He's a bit eccentric, really, but completely harmless in this sense. Maybe compared to the looming dread of the Pineville Night Stalker, right? Rumored to be terrorizing the area. Yeah, I think this is where the scary part happens. Oh, here we go. Again? Who's this guy? Yeah, it's probably not safe right now. Why did I think I heard a noise? What should I do here? He's going right around. Is he going to the basement? Hey, there's someone at the garage. Is he coming upstairs? I was expecting him to find me. What the? Yeah, but you don't just come into the house like that. Weird head.
To apprehending the killer, who has been linked to more than 10 victims to date. In light of these events, residents are urged to ensure their doors are securely locked and to contact the police immediately in case of any emergency. To aid in the investigation, a reward of $5,000 is being offered for any information that leads to the capture of this dangerous individual. That wraps up tonight's edition of Pineville's Nightly News. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So, then, the trap snaps shut. The power goes out. I mean, you know what? Let me just plug in my headphones so at least like my mic doesn't drop because I've had this so many times. Sorry. Right. Now, the trap snaps shut here. The power goes out. The rain kind of becomes deafening. So there's this classic home invasion loop that triggers. Now we see this home invasion crop up a lot in indie horror. It forces you to use a clunky and a little bit slow in-game computer monitoring system, right, to track an intruder inside your own house. So you hide under beds, you can scramble through the dark hallways, and you wait for the inevitable. The tension here isn't built on complex mechanics. It's kind of built on agonizingly slow movement of your character and maybe just, you know, your own kind of helplessness in the situation in general. Oh, there he is. When the dust settles, Joseph emerges as the savior. Now, he neutralizes the immediate threat. He's leaving Megan shaken but alive. Feels like a resolution, let's say. The good neighbor saved the day. The boogeyman is gone, and the nightmare is over, you would say? Except if you pay close attention to the true crime historical context this game pulls from, the ending drops a, let's say, a straight cold bucket of reality right down your spine. The developer, they named this helpful neighbor Joseph for a very specific reason. Tales Beyond the Tomb brands itself as being based on real-life criminal cases. In the annals of true crime, the true identity of a real-world Golden State Killer, who was originally dubbed the Night Stalker during his early crime sprees, this was actually a man named Joseph James D'Angelo. So this is very interesting because it's kind of probably based on this. The brilliant, sickening twist of Pineville Night Stalker is that the man who saved you from a generic home intruder wasn't a guardian angel. He was the actual apex predator. The game subverts the entire narrative architecture of the survival horror genre by making your safe haven the exact place where the ultimate monster operates. Now, you didn't escape the Night Stalker by hiding in the closet. You kind of let him run right through the front door anyways. You thanked him, and you handed him your trust. 616 Games created something deeply unsettling here. They proved that you don't need really a massive budget or flawless dialogue to construct a terrifying psychological experience. I love these terrifying psychological experiences. I feel like I'm going to get trauma at some point with the amount of that I'm playing. But you just need to understand how human beings process safety. Kind of how easily that safety can be then manipulated. Long after you close the game, you're left with the realization that the world's most dangerous monsters, they don't always wear masks. Sometimes they just offer to check your circuit breaker. And that's it. And that's the end.